Hello, and welcome to the Fat Squirrel Speaks. Today is Thursday, June 11th, and this is episode 272. March was 900 years long. May and June, 3 days. I'm Amy Beth, also known as the Fat Squirrel on Ravelry and the Fat SQRRL on Instagram. Hi, how are you? Thanks for coming to visit today. I think we can do a front porch chat, which is good, because if we did a back porch chat, that means you're going to see a lot of crazy, because I convinced my daughter that her summer learning project should be to refinish my kitchen cabinets, our kitchen cabinets. And while it went really well at first, we're in a period where the steam has kind of worked down a little bit. So everything's crazier than normal. There's no doors on any of my cabinets. The doors are all sanded and washed and everything. A few of them are stained. I say stained. They're like a navy blue stain that looks like paint basically, but right? It's crazy. Crazy. So the front porch is probably better. The folks working across the street are on a lunch break, I think. So I think we can manage to chat a little bit. Gus is a little restless, but we'll figure it out. How are you holding up? Oy. So today's episode will have so little knitting, but a lot of crochet. And a bit of sewing too, quite frankly. Hey, so it's actually tomorrow, if you're watching this, which is today now, but I think you understand what I mean. So I am wearing the same clothes because I work from home. Benefit number 37. But I just wanted to come back and touch base. After I recorded yesterday and I was going about my day and like I had a bunch of errands and things to do out in the world, and I just felt so uncentered and so fly away that I just wanted to come back and re-record a little section. I mean, I'm okay with you knowing that like I'm uncentered and fly away and it's okay not to be okay. But I do want to come back and just record this one little section just so I give a better representation of what this podcast is that I listen to. And I did not do a good job of talking about it. So yeah, so that. So I was talking about, I'm trying to like everyone all the time in this century. I am suffering from information overload. And so what I'm trying to do is thinking about like the one thing that was the most impactful thing that I either listened to or read or experienced from the week and try to come back to you with that. So the thing I'm going to talk about this week is I listened to a podcast called Call Your Girlfriend, which I highly recommend. I recommend it. The hosts are engaging. They talk about things I'm interested in. They have really good perspectives and well thought out arguments, and they're respectful of their interviewees. And anyway, I just think they create a really great space for further learning. And I think that beyond that, they also model things that I want to incorporate into my life in terms of just their social interaction with each other, setting boundaries, acknowledging where they're not the strongest. So there's just lots of reasons I really recommend the podcast. But the one that I listened to this week was called, oh goodness, see, I'd written it down before. But it is called Police Abolition. And it's an interview with Miriam Kaba, who describes herself as an abolitionist, an educator. There was another one that I can't think of off the top of my head. But it was such an informative just so short, concise, yet not, but still personable and conversational. Do you know what I mean? Like sometimes concise is wonderful, but sometimes it's too much like a poem where there's too much room for interpretation, and it requires too much of me. So it requires more thought from me than I'm willing to expend at the moment. Obviously, I should always engage in whatever I'm consuming media-wise in terms of, critical thinking, but sometimes it goes even above and beyond that. So this found a very sweet spot in terms of like presenting a huge topic that's overwhelming, and just, we can't know everything about everything. Like, I just have to allow that space for myself. Like, I can't know everything about everything. But it certainly was a very interesting perspective that I have never heard before. Like everybody has said, and at some time or another, like the water is wet for me around policing in America. It is something that has always existed. It's nothing that I have ever even questioned, because I'm a fish in the water and I have no knowledge of the wetness that I am in. And that certainly is a demonstration of my privilege within the society that I live in. But going beyond that, like, it's just, it's such a part of our culture. Like, it's, there are 75 different versions of Law and Order, and there are 374 seasons of them. And that dun-dun sound has been like a strange comfort to me in my life. So one of the things that Miriam talks about, she talks about a lot of really interesting things, but what we're being asked to examine, I think, is what our values are. Like, we're being asked to examine what our values are. Let's reevaluate those values. Are we interested in punitive justice because that's all we've ever known? Or are we interested in some form of restorative justice? And let me take a moment. If you are going to make a comment on this podcast about this specific thing about policing and defunding police and abolishing police, please, I am going to set a requirement that if you do so, to please listen to this podcast before you do so. Because I completely understand the knee-jerk, because this is the reason I listen to this podcast, because the knee-jerk reaction is like clutching of the pearls. Defund the police? What do you mean? Remove the police from our system? It would be chaos and anarchy. Like, what? I completely empathize with that pearl clutching moment. And so does Miriam in this podcast. But what she talks about is like, that's actually like this manipulative tool to make us say, no. We can't do that. That's, but to move beyond that knee-jerk reaction to, it's not just removing this system or defunding this system or wherever you're going to be in the perspective of thought. She says a very specific thing, that she is a police abolitionist. She wants to abolish policing, surveillance, and jails, because she believes that if you don't set the goal where you really want it to be, you'll never reach the goal. So she talks a little bit about that in terms of like why she is an abolitionist versus a police defunding advocate. But beyond that, she talks about, and other people have talked about, like, this not just removing, it is also reforming. It's reforming communities through other systems that actually help prevent what we think we need policing for. So again, it's restorative versus punitive. And so I completely understand that reaction of, or the reaction of, you're an idealist and that's ridiculous and that could never happen, because my Uncle Charlie is a cop and he is an amazing human being and he is out there protecting and serving. And so she addresses all of those things. So that's why I am saying in my space, in these comments, that I could, please listen to this podcast before you comment, because again, like, it's the culture that we're in, right? Like, that is not it's so beyond our understanding of what our world could look like, because we have to reimagine and reform the whole thing from the ground up. And so it's not happening tomorrow, but it's something that we need to work towards for empathy in our surroundings, like social programs that help people and therefore help our communities as a whole. So that has been, I think, the thing that's kind of, I can see as an overarching or the thing that I'm touching back on the most. That's the most prevalent touchstone of these few weeks. So I'm trying to see what else if I made notes and if I should talk about anything else. But yeah, I highly recommend it. It was very informative. And again, it's talking, again, why do we ask the police to both track down rapists, to talk people off ledges, to funnel folks that are in the park trying to sleep for the night into systems that they can use to better themselves and get themselves on their feet? Why do we ask them to deal with teens who they're the front lines of those teens who are desperate and without hope? And why would we ever expect any one person, and then therefore by extension any one unit of people, to do all those things? It's really not, it's inconceivable, right? Like it's there's a doctor that I go to that is a gynecological oncologist. Like, she is a specialist because what she's dealing with is so multifaceted and multidimensional, and every person is coming to it with their own set of health risks and their own set of environmental factors and their own set of familial and community factors. So she focuses on that one thing to provide care. Why are we expecting police officers and policing as a whole to be so insanely generalized? Like, that's just not a realistic system. Why have we... I understand, like, how that system could have been the result or the thing that we needed 100 years ago. But now I could call a number instead of 911 that was, there's a person on my street who looks like they're confused and doesn't know where to go. And instead of an armed officer that comes there who is being taken away from perhaps, an actual violent or dangerous person that requires some sort of militant force, why and how is she as an officer supposed to go from helping this person who just needs help, but in a flash, she's supposed to go and do harm to somebody? And like, what are we asking her cognitively to do? And it's obviously in no way realistic to ask her to do those things. So, and again, the technology is there and again, we have this whole conversation about what our future of work is looking like as we lose so many jobs, as as automation removes the need for so many jobs. We have this future of like, well, what does work look like? Well, maybe work looks like having somebody who can come and help that person. Maybe work looks like small agriculture. Maybe work looks like more teachers for schools that my child attends. Like I've taught in city schools, aka predominantly not white schools, predominantly Black, Latina schools, and I've worked in white schools, and they were both horribly underfunded. But having 40 kids in a seat versus 30 kids in a seat, even though 30 kids in a seat is way too many, 40 kids in a seat's even worse. So again, what do our jobs look like? Do they look like having a system that teachers can go into to be educators and not social workers? Like, what do we want? Like, we can reform. We can and again, I completely understand that there are a lot of you out there being like, oh, this utopian ridiculousness. But as the interviewee says, like, if we don't have the highest goal in mind, with understanding that that's not happening tomorrow, like, again, our perspective on time is so different. Like, when folks were building pyramids, they didn't expect them to get done in their lifetimes at all. So if we're focusing on reform and what we want, like, why not set the highest goal in mind? Like, why not say that we're going to take care of people? It may not happen tomorrow, but if we never have the goal of taking care of people, if it's never at the top of the mountain with the beautiful light shining down on it, then how do we know what beacon to walk towards? So anyway, I just wanted to come back in because I just was too like blah, 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 which again, I completely give myself space to do. It's okay not to be okay right now. It's always okay not to be okay, but but I did want to like come back and just talk about the specific podcast to give it more credit than I had in my previously like blah, 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 blah. I do think it's really powerful, and I think it's especially powerful if you are having those reactions of abolish the police or defund the police. What are you, crazy? You don't have any understanding of what life is really like. And it's like, no, I think that is actually what the understanding is the understanding of not what my life is like and not what your life is like, but what her life is like. Like it's that space for empathy that we are so needing to practice. And I'm very lucky. Like, I have a teen right now, and like her base state is not empathetic. And that is okay. My base, I tell her all the time, like, my base state, and still I don't know that my base state is empathetic. Sometimes I have to logically put myself in that mindset, right? But like, it's really great to have her near me to like model like what not being empathetic looks like. And so she's a really she's the fact of like one of the rough things about having children is that they are a mirror. Nobody tells you that. So that can be very hard, and it is hard. But sometimes it is the mirror that I need, where I can say, "Oh, okay. I am not modeling what empathy looks like, and I'm seeing that reflected back at me." Okay, I think that's enough. I'll put you back into my wobble. I think the only thing that I'll cut out that I might reference later in the podcast is that, I think it's later though, but in case I don't, like, I was also having like a whole like greed feedback loop where I was just like, stuff is the devil, because sometimes you can't live in the gray space, you have to live in the black or the white space for a moment. And like when you get into the black and white space of like stuff is bad, like, but like allow myself the energy to live in the gray space of that and like find my place between the two ends of the spectrum. So you might hear me wobble about that later because I was having a little bit of a blah. I allowed myself some quiet time. My friend Joanna, who is Knit Spin Farm on Instagram, posted the thing that I needed so much in the moment. Don't you love when your friends do that? I love it when you do it for me, because sometimes I don't know that I need the medicine in the moment. And then somebody tells me about the medicine and I'm like, that's right. So she posted this lovely picture from our Indiana morning. So this is the quote that I needed. Maybe you need it. But it was the space I needed to be able to revisit this thought process. This space right here is a quiet moment to take a deep breath, recenter, and then carry on with increased empathy. I've been wondering how much of our ability to understand others is dependent on having quiet moments to let our own defensiveness dissipate so we can be open to challenging ideas. So I technically gave you 2 things that are really helping me. I snuck one in. All right. And so I have found that to be good chewing thought food. And then I also have been playing more of my farming Nintendo Switch game. And crocheting. And sewing. And trying to find incentives to sand cabinets. It's been interesting because, like, together she and I have, she's not ever been one to like really watch TV with me or anything like that, but we've recently started watching like home remodeling shows just because it's a fluff thing, you know. And that's been a really interesting experience to take in with my kiddo. And just like see different ideas of what wealth is and what we value as wealth and how easy it is to lose our footing in terms of like, no, really, we're fine with our 20-year-old carpet. Like, it serves the purpose. And I mean, it's not pretty, but it's somewhat functional. It could be more functional, but like, it's not a pressing need to go from that to being like, ooh, that $3,000 drop-in bathtub looks really great. It's so easy to lose that footing that you work so hard to maintain. And so it's, you know, it's good and bad though. I mean, I think it's good to do that with her because we kind of like can regroup together in terms of like, no, really, what are our ideals? Like, what are we striving for? Like, what do we determine to be valuable rather than what we're being told to determine is valuable? But it does provide for some like wobbly footing. Been some wobble. Speaking of wobbles, oh my gosh. Okay, but I do have to endorse this highly. On Netflix, they have, I think it's called The Big Flower Fight. I forgot about it because we watched it like right after the time I podcasted last. It's amazing and you need to watch it. That's all I can say. People making giant garden sculptures in the English style of competitiveness. It's actually a little snarkier than a lot of the British competition shows that I've watched, but it's still super lovely entertainment. So enjoyable. Where was I going with that? Oh yeah, I don't know. The cabinets are crazy. To go from like going to the hardware store to get the stain and something else we needed. The cleaning solution to like remove, 30 years of grease from our cabinets. Not really. It's not like I've never cleaned them, but some areas I don't. Okay, most areas I don't. I have a rich interior life, and it doesn't always involve cleaning things. It's not terrible, but anyway. So there's this specific chemical like compound that you purchase to like prepare surfaces to be sanded and painted, and it just removes any sort of oils or anything that would prevent the wood from adhering. Prevent the coating, whatever it's gonna be, paint or stain or whatever, from adhering to the wood. So anyway, so we were at the cabinets. We were at the hardware store. So we were looking at the cabinet, like, samples they had, because at that point we hadn't decided if we were going to go. We have like the 90s. No, they're not 90s, I don't think. Well, maybe they're like early 90s. Like the builder spec oak cabinets, like the just super basic. And so we were trying to decide if we would stain or if we would paint. And like, I love look of painted cabinets, but it's that super grainy oak. And I was like, I don't think I'm going to like seeing that grain, because I think if I want it painted, I want it to look like lovely and smooth. And like, that's probably more work than we're willing to put into this situation. So we were going back and forth. So we were looking at the doors that they had samples of, just to kind of get an idea of what things might or might not look like. And they had those like super glassy doors. And I just had this intense moment of like, yes, just let me buy all new cabinets that are glassy and that I could just clean. Lickety split. Just wiped. Even though every time I see those cabinets, I'm like, ugh, it looks so sterile. I hate those. But in the moment of like cleaning the other cabinets and like thinking about them, I was just like, yes, let's just spend money we don't have on things we don't actually want, because in theory, they might save me this like chore that I only do twice a year. I'm telling you, the lure of stuff is intense. So intense. Yet the greed of it, I feel like, is at the heart of so much of this shadow stuff that we're going through right now. It's not stuff that we've not been going through forever. It's just, it wells up in bigger places. Like, it's always there, right? It's like a tar bubble or something. Like, it's always sticky and hot and bad. But every once in a while, it kind of like just, and it just makes itself really apparent. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes it just is, it's there, but it's there right now. So that is to say that sometimes it's easier for me to ignore it than other times, because I have that ability. Stuff, man. So easy. So let's talk about stuff. I contain multitudes of contradictions. Okay, let's shake it off. Shake it off for this. I'm gonna be present for you right now in fun, silly stuff. Gus is taking a nap. He's exhausted by me. I feel you, Gus. I'm exhausted by me too, and my ridiculousness. Okay. Okay. So let's talk about stuff. Okay. So knitting. I don't have a ton of knitting. I like have so little knitting. Did I even bring it over? I did. Okay. So I did knit a little bit. I knit a bit on my socks. I've been knitting on some opal socks. And by knitting on them, I mean I've been having them in a bag near my body, but not touching them. But I do have one that's finished. I probably have shown this to you before. This is some opal that I purchased from my LYS, which is, well, one of my LYSs is Mass Ave Knits. And so here is one. Isn't that super festive? Like, what is this weird ostrich section? I don't even understand it, but it's really the reason I bought it. I don't understand. And why do I think it's an ostrich skin? I don't even know why I think that. But here's my second one. So just a plain old top down sock with a heel flap, plain Jane. What really happened is I wanted to make myself some short socks. Because until recently, I've not had like hiking or like active shoes for the summer that I felt comfortable wearing hand knit socks with. But my shoes that I got last year, I really love, and they have a really wide toe box. Wide toe box stuff. So contradictory, right? God, I'm the worst. But they're really comfortable to wear hand knit socks in. So I really do want to make myself some shorty socks, but I might have like 5 pairs of socks on the needles. So I really need to finish a pair before I can let myself cast on another. So I did work a little bit on that this week. And then I got back on the crochet squares train. So I got a few of those done. I had some Knit Picks chroma that I bought for a project that ended up not working out. So I just kind of held, and it's the fingering weight. So I just held 2 strands double and made a couple squares. And I have another one that's kind of working on it. And then I have some more hand spun ones. I really like this hand spun. I don't really understand its colors, but I think that's one of the reasons I like it so much. It's super tired and enjoyable. It's dyed by folks that I don't think are dyeing anymore. They were called Spin Monkeys. And it was definitely some old hand spun, but look how cute. Right. It's all one skein. I don't know what to call these colors except like tired oxidation. I don't know, but I really like them. So I did some squares, and then I also worked some more on my crochet cardigan. So I'm doing a granny striped cardigan that I'm working bottom up. And I have a little bit more of there's my armhole cast off. So I'm continuing to work all like the fronts and the back. I'm working them at the same time rather than just working a front and another front. Because of the hand spun, I thought it just might be a better idea to try to keep a little bit more consistency so I don't have two, like, I don't even know if you'd really be able to tell if I had 2 wildly different fronts, because they're going to be different anyway because they're like different ends of the, you know what I mean? So I don't really know that you would even be able to tell. It's more just for my own mental comfort to be like, oh yes, this is what we should do. So yeah, that is in progress and is like super giant and wonderful. Yeah, look at that. Bam. That's there's the armhole right there. So yeah, so I'm basically just doing sort of a modified drop shoulder where I did bind off, so it's not a true, like, I did bind off for the arm side, but I'm not doing a lot of shaping because I just don't know, I'm not as comfortable with doing that on a set-in sleeve-in crochet. Like, I'm just not as familiar with it. So yeah, but I am doing some decreases in the bust front because I don't want this drop shoulder to be like, I don't want it to be like down to my elbow, which is almost what it would be, to give room enough for my bust. So I am doing some decreases over here, which does kind of affect the arm, you know, but whatever, it's fine. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's a granny striped cardigan. It's fine. It's like my daughter's motto, I've found, especially when dealing with all the cabinets. It's fine. It's fine. Really, most of the time she's right. I gotta say. She was making some sort of baked good the other day, and she just put like straight up non-softened butter in it. She's like, it's fine. And I was like, that is not fine. But whatever, it's your process. It was totally fine. It was fine. Sometimes you just gotta let go. Step back. And then I've done a crazy thing. I had some hand spun that I was actually starting to make squares with, but then I realized it was just slightly, maybe not quite heavy enough for my square exchange. But I really loved the squares, and so I was like, oh, I'll make a Foolproof, which is by Louise Zass-Bangham. Is that, now that I say it, I'm like, is that really what it's called? But I think it's called a Foolproof. Basically, it's a cowl that you start off like basically making it like a triangle shawl, and then you work it on the bias around and join it up. And anyway, I really think they're beautiful, knit and hand spun. Foolproof. Is that what I said? I don't remember. It's Foolproof. Here, I'll show you a picture. It's this one. So it's a long infinity cowl kind of thing. And so I was like, okay, I'll use this handspun for that. And here's what the handspun looks like in a dude. And it's, ooh, I can't reach that far because this is my shoulder that's wonky. Oh, fat arm, fat lady, arm exposure. So this is a Hello Yarn patchwork kit. And so this is part of that didn't fit on one bobbin. So you can kind of see. This one I think has just a little bit more color variation in it, but maybe not. So it's a chain ply patchwork kit. And what that is just like odds and ends. So it's all different fibers. You know, the colors just live together, but they're not like a dye lot that was created to go together. So anyway, so I thought, oh, I love the way these look knit up in the Foolproof. So I started to knit it in crochet in the garter stitch, and I was just like, I was really enjoying the process of the knitting, but I think because I really loved the way the granny squares looked, I just wasn't able to like not have it look like that. Do you know what I mean? Like I got it in my head that that's what it was going to look like when it was knit into something, and it's not how it looked when it was knit into something. So I decided to make a Foolproof but crochet granny square style. Granny stripe style. It's not really granny square style. So what I have done, is I've used the Curchmouse yarn and tease, half of a granny square shawl. It's the one I used to make my little kerchief with. Okay. So I started with that. And then, like once I got it the depth I wanted it, so you can see this is where I started with this little tiny area right here. So once I got it to the depth that I wanted the cowl to be, then I started just working on one end. And what I basically am doing is the method that is used in the pattern called Just Feel Festive, which is a free pattern on Ravelry. And it is by Caleisha Ryan. I'm sorry, I couldn't tell if it was a G or a C in my font. And it's super cute. You can see, like, okay, she's super cute and killing me. But you can see it's like this parallelogram shape, which is basically what I want for the edge, you know, for this straight part over here. So I'm just using her method in terms of like the beginning and end of the rows shaping. Well, that's not true because I'm using the increase side from the same I used over here just because it's familiar to me. But I'm using the decrease side from hers. So this is the decrease side right here. It's like, so I'm super enjoying it. And I just started this last night, and like last night I cast on the Foolproof, knit a good sized triangle, and then ripped it out and started this. And then I didn't even get this deep. I started to do I stopped about here-ish and started to work over, and I was like, no, it's not quite deep enough. So I ripped that back. And so, I mean, like, this is pretty speedy, yo. And I'm not going to lie to you, I love it. Right? Isn't it going to be so cute folded up on itself? And I think the reason I'm really liking the crochet handspun is it really keeps the colors together and gives you a good chunk of them rather than a skinny stripe of them. I'm really liking it. So I think what I'll end up doing is working, because what you do on the regular Foolproof is, so this is like your knit triangle. You work this side until you get to like however it's going to be. And then you come back, pick up along this edge, or these stitches are still live. So get these stitches going, work out this way, and then you decrease. So this is an increasing triangle. So on the other end, to join them together, you decrease them together. So since I'm not sure how to do that with crochet and make it look somewhat similar, I think what I'll do is just make 2 of these and then join them together. And by joining them together, I think I'll like do the like crocheting, like you're crocheting granny squares together. I think that's what I'm gonna do. That's my goal. In my head, that's what's gonna happen. Who even knows? But I'm just gonna hold it up again because I really like it. So yeah, that's it. So that's my wool. I finished my Inglenook Fibers 1.5 pounds, right? Yeah, 1.5 pounds. And I've got 1/3 of it plied. So I'm gonna finish that, get that washed up and ready to go. I'm excited to see what that's gonna look like. And then, oh my goodness, we'll talk about sewing. And then after sewing, I have shameless self-promotion. All the things today. So, sewing. Oh, I Made by Ray, who is the designer of the washi dress that came out eons ago, has re-released the washi dress in an extended size range. And it fits me. It just fits me though. So yeah, I was so excited. She's been saying that she's going to update it forever. And I've really been like, it's taking way too long. Because I actually bought the pattern originally thinking I would grade it up, but it was like really way at the beginning of when I started sewing for myself. And I think the maximum size is like a 42 or a 44, which is like basically like one of my boobs. I don't even know. It's not my size at all. And it's a pretty big stretch to grade something up like 14 inches. It's pretty difficult when you're not like a pattern writer. So especially if there's like a bust start, and I've not done a lot of work with bust starts and stuff like that. So I purchased it, I printed it out, I taped it together all tile styles and like started to retrace it, and then just realized like I was out of my depth. And then by the time I felt like I was confident enough to do it, I didn't want to do it because I was like, I paid for this pattern. I totally get that I'm gonna have to make adjustments, but I should not have to grade this pattern 14 inches. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I know where I'm on the bell curve. And yeah, I'm out there, but I'm on the curve somewhere. So then I just had a little hissy fit and wouldn't do it. And then she finally released it. And it was such a treat to just, I ordered the pattern from PDF Plotting. I ordered it printed. I didn't even trace it. I just cut it out because I ordered 2 copies of it. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. I ordered 2 copies of it so I could just print one out and just slap it down and cut it out straight. Because I didn't even want to trace it. Because I can't find Swedish tracing paper anywhere right now. And I really like that Swedish tracing paper. I can't go back. I can't go back to regular tracing paper. Swedish tracing paper, if you've never used it, is almost like an interfacing. It's like a non-woven clothy fabric paper thing. And it's a dream to work with. It's very easy to see and trace everything that you need to do, but it doesn't rip. You can actually theoretically sew it and wear it like as a muslin. It's amazing, but I can't find it anywhere right now. Well, I mean, I can't find it anywhere for a price that I'm willing to pay for it. So, and you can totally use interfacing, but it's a similar situation where I'm like, I don't want to spend that much money on it right now. So I totally, and also I figured magic world, I don't have to make any adjustments. Then I can use the other one for Tova if she ever wants one. Because the pattern has all the sizes in it. I'm not even kidding. It's amazing. So anyway, so I just straight up cut the paper, on the fabric. It was amazing. And so I'll put a picture of me wearing it here. It's not finished yet, but I wanted to show it to you before I make an adjustment, because this is how it looks pretty much. This is without me making any adjustments. Like, this is just straight up the largest size available. I did lengthen it because I don't like dresses shorter than my knee. So that's the only adjustment I've made. So, okay, so here it is on my human body. In case you can't see, this is the bodice line. Pockets are here. They're at a very good height for me. I did make the skirt 4 inches longer. So, without flashing you too. Oh, that's right, because it'll also refigure it when I put it on the other direction. So, it is a good length, I think, for me. Yeah, here's the side view. Here's the back with the like elastic bobbin thread. So the shearing. Let's see. What else did I want to show you? Oh, the fullness of the skirt. Now, I am like a size bigger in my bottom than I am in my top usually. So I don't know. If I were going to make it again in this weight fabric, this is a seersucker. It's fairly lightweight. I might give myself a little bit more skirt, a little bit more ease in my skirt. But I don't know. And especially if I were doing it in like a mid-weight linen or something, I don't think I would change the fullness. We'll have to just kind of see. I mean, you know, it doesn't feel like it's pulling in any way. Maybe I'm just more used to a fuller feel. What else did I want to say? So yeah, oh, that's the reason. I wanted to show you this. Now, I will actually modify this before I wear it. And again, this is not, I need to tack my facings down. It's not finished. I'm not hemmed. But I wanted to show you this before I fix it so you could see what it looks like on me out of the box. Now, this bodice is written for a CD, and I am like an HI. So I very much knew that I was not going to get a perfect fit in the bust. And while I like the fit in the full bust, I need help in the armpit, which is usually how things fit me right off the pattern. And I'm trying to, so you can see right here, I've just got a little extra fabric. You know, this is maybe 2 inches, an inch and an inch. And so I'll need to kind of play with that to kind of tuck that in a little bit. Whether I'll do it at the underarm or up here further, or I'll just deal with it. Gosh, I don't know yet. But I did find a tutorial on how to change that, like how to incorporate a reduction here into your bust dart. So I'll try that on the next time. But I did want to show it to you before I kind of like did like a patch fix on it, just so you could see like how the fit is. And you know, in the back it's not bad, but in the front I definitely have a little bit of. Now that said, I'm not that worried. It's just something that's not like ideal. So and so I didn't mention it, it's a seersucker, so it's a very light fabric. So yeah, right. So I still need to do a little bit of finishing on it, and I need to kind of play with that armhole area, but it's pretty nice. I'm excited about it. The pockets are nice. I've never gotten successful which is like the easiest thing to do is like inline, like in the seam pockets. But for some reason, I think every time I've tried to do them, my fabric has been too heavy. Or like, yeah, whatever. For whatever reason, it just hasn't worked correctly, and these are perfectly fine. So yay. Right? That was super exciting. Oh, it was so nice not to have to make any adjustments. Okay, not to not have to make any adjustments, but to not have to make giant adjustments just so it would go on my body before then I made the other adjustments for it to fit my body. Do you know what I mean? It was a delight. And then I finished my quilt I was working on last time. So last time I showed you, well, quilt for my table. By the way, also in our like crazy home renovation things, I'm realizing like I could just totally retile my table. My dining room table, we got secondhand. And I love that it's got an arts and crafts, like it's got a mission kind of feel to it. But the tabletop has like, it's got a leaf in it, but it's tile, and it's got wood around the edges, but it's so it's intentional, but like I just hate the tile because it's very beige. It's just so beige. So I'm realizing like I could totally just retile it, and it would actually be less expensive than making a quilt to put on it, and probably take about the same amount of time. So now I'm realizing that. Also, the Lowe's video of how to tile a bathroom shower thing, because right now we have a bathroom that was clearly made before showers were regularly installed. So our bathtub shower has a window in it, which I don't want to get rid of because I actually really like it. And I'm sorry if you're looking in and you see my saggy soapy boobs, that's on you. That's on you. And really there's enough hard water splash. You wouldn't, it's just going to be soft. It's going to be like a hard water filter on my bathing. But full disclosure, we have like that plastic, like 2-piece bathroom surround, because that's just what's been there. And so when I was looking up how to retile the table, I looked at the Lowe's video, and go Lowe's for having a lady do your instructional videos. Well, this one specifically, I don't know that I've watched any of your other ones, but this tiling one was a lady, and she was a total boss. She totally made me feel like I could retile our bathroom. Well, not retile, just tile. Except watching the renovation shows, I know that if I take the bathroom surround out, I know we've replaced it once, so I know that there's nothing too crazy behind it, but I don't think we replaced the drywall behind it. There is drywall there, not plaster, but I'm not sure. This is all to, and by the way, my bathtub is blue. It's like powder blue. It's super sexy. And this is all to say that, like, I'm pretty sure after watching all of these renovation shows that if I ever get crazy enough to replace that bathtub, which I probably never will, we're going to find out that there's just like a toothpick holding it up. And so I'm just never going to replace it. Yeah, okay, I've just convinced myself never to replace it. This was all to say, oh my Lord, roundabout. This was all to say that I finished the quilt that I was making for my dining room table. So this is the Moda Rainbow Jelly. I'll put the link in the show notes on the YouTubes and the pull downs, or on the WordPress, which is thatsquirrel.com. It's a free pattern, and the pattern uses jelly rolls, but I used a honey bun, which is just like a skinny jelly roll. So this is Moda's Canning Day by something Yoder, whatever her name is. And oh my gosh, like, it's so cute. It's so imperfect. So wildly imperfect. My mother is a quilter, and I'm sure she would be horrified about it if she looked close at it at all. In fact, I probably held it up for like 2 seconds. She's like, you know. She gave me lots of helpful hints after I got it all together and was like, yeah, I don't know, man. I'm just terrible at this thing, because she's like, well, did you enjoy making it? I was like, no, not at all. I did not find it enjoyable at all. It was stressful to figure out which colors were going where. And it was a honey bun. I didn't even have to like curate it. It was already given to me as these things go together. It was stressful to figure out which colors went where. It was stressful because after I sewed the strips together, they like bowed out. Well, she told me how to fix that next time. And then I ironed it. It made it even worse. The cutting it from the big squares into the smaller triangles was not stressful. I actually did enjoy that one part. But I mean, it still wasn't perfect, and like some of the triangles were smaller than the other ones. because again, the bowing and the thing and the that. Then you have to like lay it out. Then you have to sew it again. Then you have to iron it again. You have to lay it out again. Figure out which way where the squares are gonna go. It's a lot of stress for me personally. Just let me crochet all of my granny stripe things and wear my Ma Ingalls hair, right? Well, not really, but a little bit. I never realized, okay. So to hold my bun down, I have to use a rubber band because my hair is super slicky. But I got super cute hair sticks, right? And I was super in love with them. They're old silverware. But I did not think about the connotations of a fat lady having like a piece of silverware sticking out of her hair. Like, I'm just ready for a pickup potluck. I'm ready. Let's go. I got my utensil right here. Does your intentional community have pickup potlucks? Because I think I'm in. I'm ready. Let's go. Let's rock and roll. Oh my gosh. Anyways, so she's like, did you enjoy it? I was like, no. Every part of it was terrible, but then I got it done and I love it. So I'm definitely a product quilter, not a process quilter. I got it done and was like, not only did I love it, I was like, I'm gonna buy this half yard set to make, or whatever. I don't even know how much I would need. I'm gonna buy this set to make myself a bedroom quilt. These are like totally not my normal colors at all. I hated making it, but I should definitely make something that's like 3 times this size. I make no sense, y'all, but I do really like it. And it looks so pretty on my table. It's so bright and summery. Sorry, that's a circular saw going. Oh, I really do love it so much. And there's totally a few places that I need to go back over because, again, trying to work with the squares that weren't perfectly square. I know that these are things I can learn, right? I'll learn these things eventually if I continue down this crazy train. Or I'll just give these things to my mother. But there's a few places where my seam allowance was too thin on one of the pieces, and so after all the washing and stuff, like I've got essentially a hole waiting to happen. So I'm just going to go over it with like a light colored thread and zigzag stitch on top of it because it's for a dining room table and I'm okay with it not being perfect. I'm like super okay with it not being perfect. But I do really like it. Ah! Oh my gosh, by the way, also last time we were talking about how one of the fabrics really reminds me of old bedroom sheets. And one of you, who's brilliant, told me that you've made pajama pants with old bedroom sheets. Can I just discuss? I instantly went on eBay and put like 7 vintage bedroom sheets, bed sheets in my cart. I've not pulled the trigger on any of them yet because I have yet to conquer pants for myself. I'm so susceptible. Remember at the beginning when I was like, the problem of everything is our greed, my greed. The problem of everything is my greed. I didn't pull the trigger though. It's still in my cart though. Okay, so speaking of stuff, I have an update. I have an update on Friday the 12th. It's like tomorrow. I know I'm giving you so much good warning. I'm sorry. It's been rough. So I'm having an update tomorrow, Friday the 12th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And then I'm going to do a pre-order on Friday the 19th. Okay? Again, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. It's not a true pre-order. It's like a sewn to order. Anyway, I've had issues with like supply lines, things like that. So everything's just been a little bit more than normal. But here's what's going to be in the shop tomorrow. So these they're all summery. So I have these beautiful butterflies. I love them so much. This is a cotton linen, unbleached cotton interior. Super enjoyable. I have these in the large wedge size. Do you love this color zipper? Of course you do. It's amazing. I have these, again, unbleached cotton in the inside. But, and these are a cotton linen as well. But isn't that just gorgeous? See, do you see that it goes? It goes. They go. They go. Okay, then I'm going to show you these. So then in the Aran sweaters, so the big boy is, what? Spoonflower is totally operating under crazy lead time right now because of what they've needed to do to reconfigure for COVID issues. If they had not been, I would have run this as a pre-order because I really love this fabric so much. But right now their lead time is like a minimum of 3 weeks, and so to do a pre-order is really just not reasonable. But I might try to do one later in the season. So if you like it, you might see it again. I just love it because I think it would totally work for fall because you've got some nice fall colors in there. Basically, it works for any time if you like it, and I do. So this is the Aran sweater. And then I have these in a sweater size. What? I love this fabric so much. So I purchased a black run of this fabric last year, right? Almost a year ago. And so it's like this. Okay. But I've really held off on making it because I did not know how to do it. This is what this fabric looks like. Okay. It's 2 pieces of fabric that are quilted together using a long running stitch with like an embroidery floss weight of thread. But that creates a problem. I mean, I love the texture so much, both the visual texture and the actual texture. But it creates a problem in that these threads are very loose. They're not secured. I mean, they're secured at their ends, but it's super easy to pull. So especially when you're cutting smaller pieces like this, I can just, if I work on it, it's not going to immediately come out, but they will pull. So I was trying to figure out the best way. I'm never going to make it impossible to pull them out. Like, I don't even know how I would do that. Maybe if you put interfacing, like a fusible interfacing on it, but I didn't want to do that because, again, I really love the texture that it is. And that still wouldn't make it impervious to pulls, but it would make it, that would be your closest bet to make it impervious. So like if I were going to make a pillow or something, I probably would do that. But I just really loved the texture so much. So I did a couple of different things to try to minimize the possibility of the threads pulling out, but it's by no means perfect. Now this bag I made probably about 6 to 8 months ago, and I have not secured the ends in any way except just the regular sewing process. And it's held up fine. But there's also the reality of like there are just some loose threads, just like that's the nature of the fabric. I've not had issues with it, but you know, I wanted to test it. So I shortened my stitch down. I used an adhesive product that's washable to try to help anchor those in. So I've done what I can, but I just want you to know that it's not going to be, it's, you know, it's definitely can be still pulled. But I love it. I really love it. So I definitely have the black, and I'm going to do that later in the season, but I felt like the summer ones needed to be orange because clearly. So the sweater size will be this beautiful quilted fabric. Love it so much. It is soft. I mean, it's not a super firm fabric. It doesn't want to stand up on its own completely, and that's usually my standard of like, unless it stands up on its own, I want to interface it, but I didn't with this because I just really like the texture of it as it is. And it's beautiful. You can just scrunch it up and put it wherever you need to. I love it. Right. Also, full disclosure, I'm not making the black ones yet because I need to make sure I have enough fabric to make myself like a dress number 1, because I'm just going to go ahead and do that because I like it that much. Also, Arthella of, oh, what is it? Come on. Arthella, what's your podcast? Totally just left my brain. Now all I can see is my stupid podcast. I don't want my stupid podcast. I mean, my podcast is great. You should definitely watch it, like it, subscribe to it, and become a sponsor on Patreon. But also... But full disclosure, one of the reasons I'm not making the black ones up yet is I want to make sure I have enough of it to make like a dress number 1 or something. Even though that's ridiculous. But I just want to be like Arthella of the Best Day Ever podcast, because she wore her super cute, okay, but way fancier Merchant and Mills quilted tunic-y thing to Vogue Knitting Live, and it was so cute on her. Of course, that's because she was inhabiting it. Whatever, I can try. I can try to be like her. So cute. Okay, so then also pre-order. Okay, so then the following Friday, I'll have a pre-order, sewn to order. Sewn to order is just different, meaning I have fabric in stock. So it's usually like a couple weeks instead of like 4 to 6 weeks. Oh, that's right. It's Fat Bathing Beauties time. Yes, it is. So I'm going to offer it in a large wedge and a sweater size. I'm not sure exactly how I will... What I might do, I have a finite amount of this fabric. It's not reorderable. I bought it last year. I bought quite a bit of it, but it is still a finite amount. So I can't do just like an open pre-order or an open order system. So it might look a little different if you've ordered before. What I might do is just have like X number of slots and then offer like, if like I'll just have you order the large wedge, but you can upgrade with an additional purchase to a sweater. That way I can keep like a number of slots open versus trying to like go back and forth of like, okay, I've got 20 large wedge and 20 sweater. Oh wait, people want the sweater, so I gotta take away from the like, because I have a feeling that there might be a few people who really want this fabric, so I don't want to like, I need to make it as streamlined as possible, and I think that's the way to do it. So just a heads up. Another heads up, I was talking about supply line issues earlier. I cannot get the interfacing that I usually use for this size. So I have some, but I don't have an infinite amount. So just be aware that if you get the large wedge size, it might have a thin cotton quilt batting instead of the regular interfacing. It's just slightly different. It's not going to be too stiff or anything like that. In fact, it's like actually a little bit softer than the the regular interfacing I use, but just heads up, it might be different. Okay, so yeah. Alright. Did I align this so that I could sew these ladies on my birthday? Well, yes, I did. I feel like my birthday week should involve only sewing fat ladies. I think that's reasonable. So yeah, so that'll be happening, what did I say, the 19th? Yes, the 19th of this month, which is June. And some people know that, and I might not be one of those people. So just, yes, I'm verifying. Yes, it is June, and also that pre-order will be the 19th. The other order will be the 12th. All right. Keep on keeping on. It's okay not to be okay. Hope you find a koi fish or a little snaggle-toothed dog. Super cute. One or the other. If you need to put a hoodie on him, you know, maybe just look for a t-shirt because it's kind of hot. And yeah. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.